Are we facing an extinction level event, the complete surrender of our lives to a digital matrix controlled and operated by the deep state? I know it sounds far fetched, but James Martinez is a survivor of the CIA's MKUltra program, the mind control program, the secret program used for brainwashing, used for torture, among other things. He's coming forward now because he says we need to sound the alarm and people need to wake up. The mainstream media is completely ignoring this story. And James Martinez joins us now. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time to do this.
My pleasure. And so you talk about, you and I talked the other day, we talked about an extinction level event. I want to get into that here, but I think it's important for our audience to, before we get there, to maybe paint a picture of how you got involved with MK Ultra, why you decided to
Right.
blow the whistle, maybe a little backstory so people understand this and what we're facing right now. Would you mind kind of sharing that with our
Sure.
audience?
Well, yeah, just to begin with, I wasn't a victim of it. I exposed it. Um, and that occurred, a certain aspect of it. And then MK Ultra, I exposed a certain part of it. And I'll get into how these events took place and where I've got to today with it. Um, uh, in the early 90s, and late 80s, the United States was just getting used to of the possibility that there are extraterrestrials or aliens, that we're not alone. And during that time, the abduction phenomena had just started. And this was a very secret thing going on behind the scenes for quite some time until it finally broke through into US media environments. Um, so during that time in history, uh, I had already, through my own investigations and meeting people and phone calls, was starting to interface with people that had these type of experiences, but we didn't know. We didn't know the whole story about what was going on because I've been kind of a part of the disclosure movement in a certain fashion related to MK Ultra because I was the gentleman that came to Walter Boert, who wrote the book Operation Mind Control, the first one in 1978. This was the exposure of the Churchwater hearings in relation to the using of human subjects, Americans, for neuroscience in forms of torture, LSD, child abduction, and so forth, as an R&D project that was already in motion that came into the United States after World War II.
And
So
can I stop you there? I
initially,
know maybe
mhm,
our audience might not be familiar, but the CIA was like using hospitals and
oh yeah,
on
oh yeah,
unwitting
all over the
unwitting
place.
patients who were just in the
Yeah,
hospitals. They had no idea. Some of them just given LSD by the CIA, basically.
yep,
If memory serves, one of them jumped out of a window at a
yes,
hospital,
yeah,
and because he was given
correct.
LSD by the CIA, he had no idea, right? So a lot of these, they were like civilian buildings that were being used for MK Ultra, right?
Yes. Yeah, that was part of it, was the drug part, research into drugs and psychedelics. And that was fully embedded in the culture in the 60s. My business partner and fellow whistleblower was named Walter Poet. He started the underground press syndicate out of New York called the East Village Other. And he really became famous and infamous after he wrote that book in 1978, Operation Mind Control. I came in many, many years later when we posted and published Operation Mind Control Volume 2, the Special Researchers Edition, where I brought testimony into him about what essentially the behavioral science was used for and how they were faking alien abductions and using hypnosis, screen and scramble memory technology, drugs, and advanced technology on the public. So that was new news at that time and very secret, very, very, very secret in the early 90s. So when I met him, I said, okay, he found out, okay, this is what the technology is used for. And I brought in the aspect, okay, this is, they're being able to manipulate consciousness enough to create a fake abduction and make it intense enough that the person will have post-traumatic stress disorder and all sorts of syndromes related to the trauma event because CIA and all of that stuff related to MKUltra was about behavior modification. and the utilization of behavior modification for maintaining secrets, passing messages on, sex slavery, and codification of information and so forth. So that's how I met him in the early 90s, because I had already been involved in the disclosure aspect with big media people behind the scenes. One of them was Bob Guccione at New York, who ran Penthouse magazine. If people look up The Alien Penthouse magazine, they'll find that was where I did that. That was a big deal back then, and it was all over the news when that happened. But part of the information was we were finding out that they were using behavior modification technology for this type of activity. So that's how I met Walter Boert. And then both of us put out volume 2, Operation Mind Control Volume 2, which went into all the effects of the neuroscience on culture, what was happening in court cases, what was happening in the mental health business, because it is a business, what was the DSM-5 saying about dissociative identity disorder and how that affects behavior, consciousness, business, everything. All those things, we put the research into that book, and then we published it very quietly, and we formed what was called, at that point, the Freedom of Thought Foundation, which basically was a 501c3 that stood for the right and freedom to have cognitive liberty, or the right to your own thoughts, the right to your own identity, the right to all things, the right to your own brain, the right to your sovereign self for being here, for having an existence that's not controlled by somebody else. We were the first to do that. And back then, nobody knew anything about this at all. They barely knew what was going on at all. There was a very small handful of people that was involved with this. Colonel Fletcher Prouty was involved. Colonel Tom Bearden was involved. Walter Boert was involved. I was involved. We had to sign agreements with psychiatrists and psychologists because they were terrified, because a lot of their clients had been abused in various programs, and they became clients. So we were looking at all the neuroscience and the effects of the neuroscience on culture in the United States. So this is what's going on behind the scenes, unbeknownst to basically everybody. The
And what
behavior.
years are we talking about here?
This
We
was
talk
in
about
that.
the MKUltra program going from the 1950s to the 1970s, but of course, we've done interviews on this show where it got, people think it ended in the 70s, but it became
No,
even
never
more
ended.
robust.
We're in
Yeah.
it. We're in it right now, which is the reason why I'm coming out and telling everybody now, because there's been movies, media, da da da. People have been talking about this, what we did, all over the place. People can handle it now, but what they can't handle and maybe not be able to handle is the reason why I'm doing this interview in the first place, and why I was put in touch with you, because I was given a lot of people to talk to, and you were on the list because initially, when the 501c3 was set up, it was a nonprofit foundation to educate the public about how important it is to maintain our cognitive liberty. This supersedes the Constitution, law, everything, right? It's your right to have your own thoughts. And as an attorney and people associated with law, they're kind of getting acquainted with this now and what this is going to mean to human rights. So, to the point reason I came here to talk to you is because recently I was asked to be the chief advisor on a committee related to the brain-computer interface and its relation to the international standards for technology. That basically is they're a group of countries all over the world, and they all have committees that represent their country. Those committees determine what the standards are going to be for technology when it's commercialized and goes all over the world. Like, for instance, the phone or a toaster or whatever, it's got to meet certain safety standards and all this type of stuff. These committees are determining public policy about what's going to happen when you interface the brain, the computer, AI, and quantum. That's going to end everything. Period. It's the end. It's the initiation of the decapitation of our relationship to God. Will become cybernetic. Will become, instead of carbon, will be silicon-based life forms, cybernetics, and they're going to do this via voluntary compliance. Most people will walk right into it, not even knowing that they're doing it or want to do it, because there's portions of the population all over the world in the younger generations that um, feel that humanity has no hope at all, and they're going to fuse with this technology already. So the brain-computer interface, it's tied in to everything, all our warfare systems, all our banking systems, all our health systems, all in the ways we do commerce and move about in culture. This is the extinction level event because you no longer are an organic free will human being. You're now fused, tied into the cloud. And there's a documentary film crew that's recently contacted me, and there's I've talked to many people behind the scenes now because I really initially I could have commercialized myself in this chapter of my life quite well and made a huge name for myself. I don't know the mind control guy, but I really didn't want to do that. I've not been really public, not as much as I used to be, because I've always been in the solution orientated thing. Don't tell an audience just a problem without telling them a solution. So I don't want to come here and say, okay, we're at the end of civilization and that's it. Goodbye, have a nice day. Rather than inform your audience, inform the people that will see this either live or taped or a year from now or 6 months from now, that this is the point where you can no longer be a spectator, period. Because everything that's in the news today, when this will be aired, is not relevant at all. It's all misdirection. And I say it's not relevant at all, not because it's not important, because it is important, but the behind the scenes, the powers that be want everybody distracted with the Epstein and the war and Gaza and Africa and all this other stuff. When I'm in touch with a lot of people in other countries, and I've informed them that this activity is taking place now. To summarize it and make it relevant for people that may be new to this, Palantir, everybody knows that name. They are aiding and abetting the end of our species. Okay, so what I am saying, and I will have documents in the near future, is he's going to be sued by many people to begin the process of public dialogue, public policy, and your rights to your own brain. Now, there's already been laws that have been passed in the governor of California just passed the laws protecting somebody's individual brain and their personality, because now what's happening is the very symptoms of all this are happening because people are cloning their personalities, cloning their voices, and putting them into the internet. And this is all going to create, there's no law in anything in the world prepared to deal with this and what's going to happen. None.
So, what do you think specifically? And then I want to kind of break it apart a little bit, but who's behind this? But what specifically do you think is going to happen when we talk about an extinction level event?
Extinction, when I'm referring to extinction, I'm saying the form in which your body is in now. You go walk around and you don't have any wires attached to you. You're bathing in electricity and EMF and all sorts of radio waves and everything else. But some people are more apt because their bodies are being used as energy chargers for the cloud if they've had the kill shot. Other people that are not, that don't have nanotechnology in their blood or on their skin, or they've ingested, they still can be transmitted. Synthetic technology or telepathy rather, their moods can be altered. They can induce modules of schizophrenia. So this is what's really going on. This is the end goal. So when the World Economic Forum came out and they're bragging about what they're going to do with everybody, whatever they're saying they're doing, they're probably 5 years ahead of it already, and they just tell off the tail parts of it. But when they said they were going to get rid of a large portion of the global population, they didn't exactly say all the details in which they're doing. People presume that means we're dead. They're going to kill people. And yes, they are doing it, but they're using all sorts of soft kill weaponry to do it, to make it so they don't look like they're doing it. and they get everybody involved to be aiding and abetting in that. But this is invisible. Can't see where it's
So who's
coming from.
behind this specifically? We talk about MK Ultra. Is this part of the CIA MK Ultra program, part of your
Yes, it's
investigations and
part of
whistleblowing?
yeah, this is part of the corporations aiding and abetting in the computer industry, the cell phone industry, the cell tower industry, and the satellite industry. Because you need, in order to make all these programs work, you have to have your subjects be fully invested and almost cybernetic with all their devices. In other words, I mean, how many people do you see a day that have their face in their phone all day, or at least 8 to 10 hours a day, all over the place? And
Right.
you have people in the cafes. So this has already altered cultural behavior and biology. It's already got biological impact anyway. We're not supposed to be sitting in cafes in front of phones for 12 hours in a row. Okay, so this is already happening, and people are voluntarily complying and falling into this. So there's effects that are happening about this already. But in order for it to work, you have to have the legal compliance of the states and everybody that are putting up the towers. Because you might notice as well that if you're looking, and I don't know if you've covered this or not, there's people on the Hill right now that have testified in Congress about the use of neurostrike weapons on the brain in targeted individuals. This is a legitimate complaint because the first lawsuit in history against targeted individuals was filed by Anna Toledo, the attorney in Texas. This is related to all of this because remember, to perfect weaponry or perfect a system, you need to test it. And a lot of these systems and weapons are being tested on the public unbeknownst to them because it's coming through the electricity because you're an electric being. Your heart's your heart rate and everything is it's an electric composite. You are affected by electricity or the weather and so forth. When you're surrounded this in your house, on your phone, under 5G conditions, it's basically micro escalation to prepare you for 6G. When they put out the cell phones, this is we're basically training wheels for the public to to prepare them for telepathy because the effective instantaneousness was altered by the user in the interface. In other words, initially this started off with a pager. You may remember a long time ago when people had pagers and they'd always be looking in an anticipatory state, waiting for their pager to go off. And they'd always have it in their hand. And then after that came the mobile phone. And then the mobile phone turned into the small iPhone or Android that we see. And then the effect and the alteration of our central nervous system is related to that technology because it sped it all up and created the effect of instantaneousness. The effect of instantaneousness altered your cognition and altered how you interact with everybody in your universe. So they made stepping stones to get us to this part where we're at now, where the fusion of the brain, computer, AI, and quantum will be put into one. Now, that's why I came here, is to tell everybody that these discussions are going on behind the scenes without any dialogue with your so-called elected employees anywhere. Okay,
Who
so
who specifically? Where are these dialogues happening?
some of them are happening in Congress. They're talking about directed energy weapons being used on the public. Department of Homeland Security brought it up because I saw the video footage of it, and I know the person that filed the lawsuit because about a year and a half ago led me into this position. I was asked to go to DC to meet with somebody that was one of the top experts in neurostrike weaponry because this lawsuit had been filed in Texas and our elections were happening. And I was being asked to go deliver this information one on one to RFK Jr. because he knew about MK Ultra and I didn't have to explain it to him. When he interviewed me, though, he didn't even want to air that stuff. But I know that he knows. So I met with somebody in DC that's like an expert with this type of stuff. And I saw all the data
Do
and
you think? Well,
everything.
hold on. Do you think that RFK Jr. knows because his father was killed by it?
Yeah. And
Sirhan
he
Sirhan.
knows, yes, yes, exactly. Because when initially when I spoke with him off air, um, uh, I asked him, so is the guy's Sirhan's hypnotic blocks been removed or at least identified? Where did you find all those code cues and triggers? and who's he interfacing with? Does he have dialogue with somebody? Because in order to find out all this stuff, you have to go and examine the pathology of the individual. And apparently, nothing had been done. He'd still been frozen in time and hadn't had any recall about anything that he was doing, let alone, and wasn't even really aware. So this stuff goes on in court cases that you never hear about at all. We covered it in Operation Mind Control book about uh, getting somebody to discredit themselves that was interfacing with this type of technology. And we were interviewing people quietly that were private contractors supplying technology to create synthetic telepathy and induced versions of schizophrenia. So
Okay, I interrupted you, and I want to get back to what you were saying, but I think it's important. We still don't know what happened on July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania, and this Thomas Matthew Crooks, who was hanging around with Department of Homeland Security individuals at the gun club nearby in Butler, Pennsylvania. We have no
yeah,
information about this guy. His
yeah,
body
no.
was cremated without the parents' authorization almost immediately. Was you can, I don't know if you know or not, but was
I
that
know
part
about
of this
that, but
program?
I I I suspect it is because whenever they catch these guys that have done stuff like this, not just him, other people, school shooters and stuff like that, it's always the same type of profile. And they usually, I mean, somebody that's more apt to be vulnerable to auto suggestion, hypnosis, and so forth would fit a certain type of person to get people to do this type of activity because you don't need drugs necessarily to do that. And Gregory Bateson and other hypnotists have proven that because we put it in the book what people are capable of. But I don't know the guy's pathology. I've met
Yeah.
him. I don't know. Yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry
what
to
I would say.
interrupt you on the RFK point. I'll let you continue there. Who's behind this and continue? I just wanted to, I think that was an important point on Sirhan.
Yeah, yeah, because this is important because there's people that are under attack with this type of technology, and when it's being labeled the Havana syndrome, right?
Right.
But there's been no official counter to any of it because they don't know where it's coming from. When I met with people in DC, he goes, "Well, we have to be real quiet about this, and we don't want the DoD to make a statement about it because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. They don't know who is doing it, and we're doing it. They're doing it to their people. We're doing it to their people, and da 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 da. And it's coming from multiple sources. So this basically cancels all type of borders and loyalties, whatever, because for people that have seen this, like who is responsible for pushing all this technology ahead and using it like this? Well, we have a breakaway civilization that's decided they don't need us anymore. And part of that breakaway civilization occurred in 1947 when they passed the National Security Act, because that basically chopped everything in half, stopped all the free flow of information. They're we don't even live in a reality that's cognitively close to where we're at technologically or anything else because of this bifurcation that took place. Because when they filed and people look it up, the National Security Act of 1947, they did that like in a week, and there was like hardly any dialogue about it. It was all done secretly around the same time as Roswell, around the same time as CIA came into the United States, and then this breakaway civilization a post Operation Paper Claim in, and they perfected all these sciences. And they had the national security clause to hide behind their entire careers. So we don't have free flowing information in this country. We haven't for a very, very long time. And that's how these programs, they're getting away with it because of that type of clause that people get faced with.
So if I understand this, well, maybe you can explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old, which is what they're trying to do to us now. So we've got
Yes.
many of us, many people who went and got the shots, having
Yeah.
nanoparticles, manipulation of their DNA. We know that to be true now. But beyond that, the cell phone towers, the 5G towers, the constant bombardment of electricity into our lives, the cell phones, all of that. What is the goal? I mean, who? I think a lot of people might
What
picture like a
it's
Doctor
what
Evil sort of sitting there, in
well,
an underground bunker. Well, what are we seeing here?
it's to upgrade or alter our species while killing it off. And it's been decided by multiple groups of people. It's not just one single that person. When people hear about the World Economic Forum, that's the public arm of the people that have been asked to be in those positions, of people that have decided they want to reduce global population and they want to completely alter what it means to be human. So you have people, spokespeople like Noah Harari, coming out and making statements about hackable animals, which are humans. And you're seeing the ongoing preparation for the separation or division of your divine incarnation, your right to be associated with godhood. That's being removed. So they're going to create a synthetic, different silicon-based type of human that is fused with technology. Either they'll be chipped or they can use other tools to use behavior modification and what that's going to do. Basically, it's going to dissolve the boundaries between your inner world and your outer world. That's what it's going to do.
So
because
we understand the
everything will be
extinction level of
accelerated.
it, what we're talking about here is, or we're talking about the killing of people or the mind
No,
altering control of people.
if I want to get rid of you, I can kill you and then you're dead, right? But if I also want to get rid of you, I'll just alter you. And then I can accelerate your death because I'll have complete control over you mentally, physically, and your nervous system. And if I want to put you to bed early or kill you off or reduce your life, I can do so. And that's what they're doing. It's just one tool in the toolbox that is being used to reduce population reduction, but it's the most lethal and the most dangerous for humanity. This is the breaking point underway. So when you see interviews with the head of Palantir talking about the biggest, most gigantic surveillance system being put in place, he's not talking about the ecological effects of what that's going to do. This is why a lot of people are saying, this guy's the Antichrist, and they mean it because he's aiding and abetting the end of your free will, the end of your own cognitive liberty to make decisions based upon your own thoughts, your own ideas, your own history, everything. That's what they're doing.
Why right now? I mean, have there been specific alarms going off? You mentioned a few, but I just want to be very specific on this. Why you're coming forward now, warning all of us? Like, what is happening
Yeah.
behind the scenes? We're being distracted by other things, of course. They love to do that, but
I'll tell you.
what?
I'll tell you. This is important to know. This is very important to know because I've arrived here at this point and with other people that I'm talking to in public because when I was asked to be chief advisor on this committee, uh, lo and behold, I found out that the committee was not organized financially, was being blocked by our own government to participate on that committee, and had no reasonable means to represent the United States on the international playing field to institute rules and regulations and standards for brain computer interface. Because if you think that your information is going to be private and you trust these people that are doing this to keep it private, you're delusional. So when I found out that this committee was being ignored, it wasn't being financed, and moreover, we were taking orders from China, I decided this isn't right. This is not right at all, and they shouldn't be dictating rules and regulations and standards to anybody. But since a lot of the power in this country was given by design to China, we have a problem now where we're not part of the standardization of this and what it is going to be. And the Chinese are running, they're running us in this area. So when I found out this, I had private meetings, I flew all to different countries and so forth, and said the public needs to know this. So I've had to actively go out and try and raise funds for something that the United States should be handling themselves, but they're not because the United States is occupied. in a certain fashion right now. And we're not getting the support to get it on the international playing field and say, stop China making these standardizations and protocols of what this is going to be worldwide. They don't get to dictate with it. They're not our bosses. Not for you, not for me, not for anybody. That's why I'm coming out in public, because there's critical infrastructure related to national security that is national security that is all embedded in this brain computer interface stuff. And
Like what?
well, weapons, surveillance, drones, drones are now being run by the brain. They're not being run on computers. There's people hooked up to it that guide it. There's people I know, because I was introduced to them, that are writing code with their brain on the computer in live time on operations. And I was asked to go meet with this guy because I was more interested in his pathology and what happened to him, who he was before, how did he get to this position, was it voluntary or not, and what the hell is he going on with now? Is he running his own mind, or what kind of security agreements do they have? Is there any such thing as a security
Hold
agreement?
on. Hold on. So this individual you met with has some sort of a brain implant chip, or he's interfaced with a
Yes,
computer somehow, and he's
yes.
writing code just with
I
his
talked
brain?
him over the phone. Yes, I talked him over the phone. I was put in touch with him from somebody else, and I was interested in talking to him to find out what the hell went wrong and what's his pathology like. Does he sleep? Does he have any private thoughts of his own? All this type of stuff I needed to know, because the public has to be aware of what this is going to do.
Who did this to
To
him?
He didn't want to say. He was working for a joint operation between the U.S. and somebody else, and he was trying to get me to do certain things for him. But I said, I have to meet you privately. I can't do, I have to see what's happened to you. I mean, but when you were talking to him over the phone, he would sound like a normal person. There's nothing there. But I don't know who he was before this took place. So this is
Right.
probably quite common, quite common.
For for the average person watching this right now, the mom or husband, who's has a family trying to put food on the table, they're not part of these secret government programs. They have just a normal life. They got the COVID shot when they were told to, because that's what the government told them to do. All of that. They've got cell phones. Like, what does this mean for the average person watching right now?
It means the you that you think is you isn't going to be you. So I wouldn't say that if I didn't have a solution or a strategy to talk to the public about, because I've made sure I've talked to other people that I've spoken to about this in public. The most important thing a person can do is if they become a victim of some type of directed energy weapon, or they're having health issues, or their personality changes, or they find out that they're being influenced by these type of technologies and they have proof of it, and they want to make a claim against the people that are doing it, they have to be first in line to make a declaration for that. So this is what I've done for myself already. I've already filed declarations in the county recorder's office and with the UCC, declaring all my cognitive rights. And if there's violations in any form, whether it's the airport, a restaurant, a house, public event, anywhere, and I find out about it, that I will file claims and for certain amounts of money. And I've made these declarations already, because there's no law anywhere in the world that is prepared to deal with this, because there's law firms right now behind the scenes that are claiming they're going to be experts in neurocognitive law, when there's nothing about that in law. So if you're fused with another with a technology, you can't be in court because you're no longer human anyway, and you don't have any rights. You're owned. You're a product for somebody else. We're giving away our humanity in process right now. So I filed these documents so that this issue is going to be dealt with in the courts. I can assure you that because prior to getting on and speaking to you, I was on with people in Europe with the, I don't want to say the foundation, but it's a very big, prestigious one. And I'm being introduced to some of the top judges in Europe, other scientists, because we're at a breaking point now where law, rights, human right violations are going to start occurring on a level we've never seen before. So I know in the US that we'll face one of the biggest mental health crises ever. It'll be horrible, horrible what's about to happen.
And you
So
think that'll be a
you have to
directed energy
declare your
weapon?
rights.
So, like, declare your rights, write it down on paper. I don't want anyone manipulating my brain. I don't want anyone manipulating my body. And you think this would be some sort of a mass directed energy weapon program that's already unfolding? We're already seeing
Yeah,
it. A lot
but
of people
yes,
in
but
our audience
everything
write
begins
to us.
and ends in a court. Everything begins and ends in a court. Everything. Your rights, your ability to contract with somebody, your ability regarding money, agreements, business, all has to do with legal frameworks in a court of law. And in order to prepare yourself, you have to make a declaration that these rights are not to be violated. Because what's going to happen is, like, when people are carrying their cell phones and all their apps, they all upgrade. You agree to the terms. Nobody reads the terms.
Right.
And anything on their phone. They don't even read the terms of all their credit card agreements. Nobody reads terms. And they're counting on this by voluntary compliance to walk into this so that they're not responsible for the damage that's going to be done to you and is ongoing right now with people all over the world with this advances. Because when 6G comes in and it's common, we're done. We're done.
So is it one? I want to talk about the who behind this. When we talk about the CIA, MKUltra, like, is it Palantir? Is it the World Economic Forum
Palantir,
using
Google,
NGOs?
DARPA, the Department of Defense, military in Europe, the Soviets, everybody's involved in this because it's the high ground of warfare. When people see war on TV, they think it's bombs and guns and guys going into buildings and tanks, and that's old. That's all totally obsolete. If you want to take over a country, it's much more sophisticated and easier ways of doing it. Take it over and then you run their minds. That's what you do.
So in the
They've
United
already
States,
used this type of technology in warfare.
you talked about the United States and already being controlled in a lot of ways. You talked about a massive mental health crisis hitting the U.S.
Yeah.
and that'll be manufactured. I was just having a conversation yesterday with someone who said the pharmacist couldn't believe the amount of just young children that are coming in and getting on antidepressants. The pharmacist is writing like a record amount of antidepressant medication. Is this tied together in any of this?
Of course, because that's synthesized with electromagnetic weapons, Wi-Fi, all the electricity that surrounds you in dense populated areas, that person's their nervous system's already been co-opted. So that's a symptom of their nervous being co-opted, that they're going in for depression because their biorhythms are already totally screwed up. A child born today, and we've seen pictures of this, they have a cell phone shoved in their mouth, probably at 5 years old. That changes the entire relationship with the brain, the central nervous system, how they operate in their cognitive behavior, decision making, all of that. You and I lived when there wasn't that. So we've seen the change happen. We're witness to it. They're not. So their central nervous system operates completely differently. Because you'll notice with a lot of young people, they have like zero attention. Zero.
Right.
Because they deal with the effect of instantaneousness 24 hours a day. They sleep with their phone, they walk with their phone, they cook with their phone, they do everything with their phone. And if you take it away from them, they go into withdrawal and they have like fits. We've seen this behavior. So that all these little signs behaviorally are all knee deep embedded in the United States. We've got a tremendous fight ahead of us. This is the spiritual fight of all fights, is the takeover of the brain. It's always been the high ground. It's what Walter Boert, we knew back with Fletcher Prouty and all these guys, that this was the high ground. And it was Jose Delgado, the famous Princeton psychiatrist, I believe. He said that in the future there would be a psycho-civilized civilization. He was very public about it. And yeah, we're there. But this is the final aspect because user will be interface and neural net sequencing in the brain will be controlled, and their intentions and decisions will be affected. It's kind of like Minority Report upgraded.
It's deeply disturbing. What you're
Yeah,
telling me is
but
absolutely scaring
your
me.
elected officials, they're responsible. They're supposed to be telling you this. They're supposed to be informing the public about what's going on. They're not. Our president,
Because I think it seems
like
so
I've
nebulous.
dealt with the big attorneys that are
Yeah.
supposed to be interfacing with people to make public policy on this, and they're just dumbasses. They don't even know how to articulate it and say it. And I say, look, read all the data. Okay, I'll get back to you in a month. Read it all. Go check it out. Reference it. Figure it out. Pretend you're not going to go to court. And they are freaked out by it. They're totally freaked out by it because now they see what's really been done. Because so
Hmm.
how do we, the people, fight this? It's going to be done in courts. So this is why I'm telling people to start declaring by your own free will declarations in the county recorder office. I have people call me or sorry, email me asking for these declarations, like a template of them, so they understand what's at stake. And I send that out because my declarations might be slippery, different than yours. But the point is you put them on the public record. So when you do get into court, their ass is on the line because you've informed them before you even show up your
We'll put
situation.
it on the county recorder's office. Maybe we can
Oh
link.
yeah.
We'll put a PDF in the show description that you can share with us, and we can maybe share it with the audience if they want to do that at the
What
county
they can
level.
do, what I can do is if people email me or contact me through the Patreon account, and I will get that template for them. And it's a building block that they can change. It's not finalized. This is going to mutate because I put those declarations as a pending declaration that will be, I will build on top of these declarations as I start to see what the technology is going to do because it's going to affect all your sensory inputs through your five
You're on
senses.
one track with this as one whistleblower. How many other whistleblowers are you working with who are kind of sharing and bringing information to you from other quadrants?
Some of them I'm emailing and talking to, but if they get it up to a certain, if they understand at a certain point, I don't talk. I talk to them a lot less because if I'm sharing information and telling them that they don't know about this, do you know about this, and they know it, then I leave them alone because they're doing. There's other people that are addressing this, but they're not addressing the legal aspect. I'm trying to give a remedy to the public to prepare for this because the damage that's going to be done, it's not.
Can you?
It's beyond.
I guess I'm always looking for like the big moment, the big smoking gun moment. Is there something that we should be paying attention to? Some, while we're being distracted by other stories, I guess, is there some watch out for this? Like, Clayton, pay attention to this that's going to happen in the future here that you know of.
Pay attention to what Palantir is doing, and then pay attention to the lawsuit that's going to be filed on that company and maybe him personally and other
Peter
companies.
Thiel?
Because what's that?
Peter Thiel?
Yes, yes, he's an aiding and abetting in this, and so is Elon Musk. Because they think that what they're doing is they're telling the public they're going to be utilizing this technology for medical issues. Great. I would love to be able to rehabilitate somebody so they could see again or walk again or something like that. I would be supportive of that to give a person back their life, right? I'm empathetic toward our vets and all these things that it could help. But since when ever in human history has technology just been handled for good purposes and not used for evil? We're not evolved enough as a species to deal with this, and have people that are running us and have control over us that are deciding the fate of everybody, they're mostly mentally ill, disassociated people. Because I have had conversations with the people that are talking to the actual people that are deciding what they're going to do with us. And they're kind of like Peter Thiel. It's like talking to a cement wall or your refrigerator at 3 in the morning. There's nothing there. The heart of the matter is a matter of the heart, and they don't have any. Because if they did, they wouldn't be doing these things or participating in ending our current evolution. Because there's people coming out in the public that are saying what your evolution is going to be, like Noah Harari. Nobody rebuts him and gets in his face. They all pay for these huge stages, so they go on and everybody bows to them, but nobody rebuts. And in a court of law, if you have a conflict, you have to rebut. Silence is acquiescence. Acquiescence is agreement. There's no ignorance under the law. These are very important maxims that people need to understand, because you're not going to get second chances for this shit. There's going to be no second chances. They don't care. There's been barely any remedy for all the victims of people that had the kill shots and have been damaged by them. They're never going to see any big money. Their lives are going to be shortened dramatically. They've gone through cognitive degrades already. Is anybody going to stop any of this? So I come in because I know your work and what you're doing, and others such as yourselves, and I have to tell them and remind them to you're not free. You're not free. And you have to make declarations that you are free. And you have to understand who you are in a court of law, too, because that's where everything is going to end up. Because you can't stop these companies from moving forward if you don't sue them and you put all the discovery and interrogatories into the public format for discussion. Because, like I said, I always use this as an example. I said before, nobody called you up and said, hey, we're putting out this cell phone and it's going to completely totally alter social space. You're not going to be able to sleep as well. It's going to affect your digestion. You're going to be stuck on it 10 hours a day, and you're going to be hijacked by the internet. And if you're not on an app or on Instagram, you're going to be vaporized and nobody even knows who you are. Did they call you and tell you all this stuff, these effects of what was going to happen? No, they don't. This is why I'm saying your audience, they need to get it. They can't be spectators anymore. Time's over. Nobody's going to help you. You have to do it yourself. This is the great moment in your spiritual evolution, my spiritual evolution, everybody else that sees us, black, white, red, yellow, brown, everybody, that they need to assert themselves into the courts now, because our Supreme Court justices in the U.S., I don't know anywhere else, but in the U.S., they don't know shit about this stuff and what it's going to do. None. So it's going to end up there.
They're always 20 years behind all of this.
Yes.
Yeah, deeply troubling. James, how can people get in contact with you, and where can people learn more about this?
I'm on James Martinez Media on Patreon, and I'm on X, Electric 11 Media. They can find me there. And if they look up Operation Mind Control James Martinez, they can find my website as well. They'll find me. I usually make it difficult to try and find me, because the people that do find me, I know that they're serious. Because the conversations that are going on behind the scenes right now with people at very high level judges, foundations, the tip of the elite of the so-called scientific world, they know what's going on as of about 48 hours ago. And there's meetings that are going to be happening behind the scenes, behind this whole thing. This is going to be the biggest moment in human history having to do with this stuff. This is the one you can't ignore, and you got to make a stand now. Because I have talked to some of Trump's inner circle people, and they don't even know how to articulate it enough to tell him, we need to do something about this, or this needs to be in the narrative dialogue constantly. That's not happening.
Right. That's why I said explain this to me like I'm a 5-year-old, because no offense to President Trump, if you walk into his office with this like nebulous problem, how do you even wrap your heads around it? How do you wrap your arms around it?
Exactly.
How do you, yeah.
I don't expect your audience to fully get this until they take the time out. It's take your time out to research it, look into all of this stuff, and then come to your own conclusions. But if I said this 10 years ago, that if everybody would have thought it was completely crazy, today they'll get the right people will understand and they will do something about it because they initially said, well, will you come on the committee? Will you be part of this committee? And I said, I'll be an advisor. I won't come on it because I'm not going to sign any of their agreements or security agreements and follow all their stupid rules about what they're deciding, what the standards are going to be for the brain computer interface, which is basically deciding what your rights are and what you get to do in the future. I am not contracting with them. I'm not going into any agreements in their fictitious courts of bullshit and all this other stuff, period. I'm not doing it. And people are going to, I know for a fact that people are going to start violating all the security agreements now that they have because they know it doesn't matter what money they have or the pensions and everything. It's not going to matter anyway. Because if this isn't dealt with in a very public fashion with people from all walks of life, black, white, red, yellow, brown, lawyers, entertainers, actors, painters, cooks, regular people with regular jobs, all should have a vested stake in the dialogue of all of this. Don't allow these technology companies to run you. Nobody's ever faced off with these people. And I don't mean a lawsuit.
They've been embracing.
They get to go around and talk and do whatever they want. They don't get arrested. They jack off in front of huge audiences for everybody. And everybody goes, but nobody faces off with them. Nobody rebuts. They just listening. Oh, he's got a lot of money. Woo.
Yeah,
they don't care about you. They don't care.
Journalist Whitney Webb has been covering the Palantir angle for a couple of years now, warning all of us about this. And I just hope people are paying attention. James, I think we should leave it there for now. I'd love to have you back on as this story evolves. But for now, people can reach out to you through your Patreon if they want to get that maybe sort of a building block that they can reach out to their county recorder's office, research this information, pay attention to it. We'll have links in the description below. And James, any final thoughts for our audience today?
First, thank you for allowing me on your broadcast and your audience, people that are seeing this. This is your moment. Nobody's going to come help you. You have to completely take your power back now. You have to declare your rights. You have to make the people that are responsible for public policy get involved and hold them liable. Contract with them. Get them on camera. Engage the conversation. Ask them questions. They're not going to understand what you're talking about anyway, but why don't they? Why do I have to come on and do this? I shouldn't have to do this because the elected officials that are in positions should be doing this, but they're not. So I'm on the public side, totally. And I thank you for taking the time to do this. And I will come back and send you stuff. And as this thing unfolds, you'll get to see what's going to get ready to go down. So, but thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, James.